or Chet, he was called, Hines, Hines, and Chet was from Ohio, originally Chillicothe, but he lived all the time that I knew him. He lived in Dayton, and he had become very enamored of Mountain Dulcimore music, and so he learned from his grandfather very young how to build a Mountain Dulcimer. And then as he got older, in 1965, he started the first, and as far as we know, the original and first Dulcimer Society in this whole country, and it was in Dayton, and it was called the Mountain Dulcimore Society, and that's how it is on his book. His book is how to make and build and play the Mountain Dulcimore, M-O-R-E. No, I never really asked him why oh, there's a picture of him. I never really asked him why.
I think I checked that book out of the library once.
Oh yeah? They got it in the library? That's
at one time.
Oh, that's great.
At one time.
Hopefully it's still there.
They may still. Indianapolis has a wonderful library system, I'm told.
Yeah, I am not a builder of anything like that.
Yeah.
Now, Marty's husband David was, and I don't know how many people actually consulted Chet's book, but maybe a lot of people did. It was a very popular book for a while there. It was published in when was it published? I don't know if I wrote it down. In 73. That's when he published his book, in 73. So in the 70s, it was kind of a popular book for those who wanted to be Dulcimer builders, I guess. I don't really know. Now, Hines was, he just made it his business to travel around and play Dulcimer music. That's what he loved. So he was on the Grand Ole Opry. One of his Dulcimers for many years was in the collection of Roy Acuff's that is at the Grand Ole Opry, at Opryland. It moved to Opryland. I don't know if it's still there, probably not, but who knows. Now, the founder of our feast, so to speak, is Nolan Sleeth. And Nolan had met Chet, probably at some festival. We don't know how Nolan met Chet. But Nolan became very, very enamored also of the Dulcimer. That's what he loved. I think he liked singing, he liked folk music, but Nolan's thing was that Dulcimer music. He loved it. In fact, that's Nolan's Dulcimer.
This is the Mountain View Dulcimer that Nolan Sleeth brought home to Brownsburg, and that's how he got started on playing the Dulcimer and then making it. So when Nolan got sick and handed the Dulcimer Society, he gave him this Dulcimer.
Yeah.
So this is it. This is the first Dulcimer.
Yeah. That's great to know. I actually brought some copies I printed of Nolan's very favorite Dulcimer tune, which is called Chinese Breakdown. Do you guys know the tune, Chinese Breakdown?
Yep.
Someone told me that it had been played at the Society and some people knew it, but I brought 5 copies in case somebody didn't know it and they want a copy today.
It's actually in our Fiddle Tunes
It's in your
book.
tunes book? Oh,
Yes.
Excellent. That's excellent.
I think Max,
Well, you need to make sure people know that that was the founder's favorite tune on the Dulcimer.
Dan Renault loves that tune. He would always call that, Dan Renault?
No, Dan.
Dan would always call that as a tune to play when we were,
Yeah, that is great to know. Well, I can't lost count many times ago, many years ago, the number of times that I played that tune accompanying Nolan because he loved that tune so much. I never really, it's not that complicated of a tune, but somehow it just fit his notion of what the Dulcimer should sound like, So in 1970 and 71, 71 was my first Feast of the Hunter's Moon. And those 2 years, Nolan had enticed Chet Hines to the Feast of the Hunter's Moon. I remember there was this huge cloth banner on the stage up behind Chet saying the National Mountain Dulcimore Society because Chet made the Feast of the Hunter's Moon for 2 years there one of the meetings, the regular meetings of the National Society. Well, he was the one who inspired Nolan to start. I met Nolan also in 71 at the Feast of the Hunter's Moon. He had a little booth set up, just a table and some chairs and a canopy of some kind. But he had a couple of dulcimers there for people to sit down and play. And so I did. And that's how I'd never played one before, but no time like the present, so start, So that's how I got to know Nolan. And he told me then, I want to start. That the big sign was over at the stage, behind Chet Hines, and he said, I want to start a Dulcimer Society here in Indianapolis. And I said, great, that's wonderful. Well, that was the fall, probably October, and it was January before before I got a little postcard from Nolan saying, we're going to have a meeting. So January of 72 was when he first, sort of called people together. And he had already met you by that time, I feel certain. Had you not met him?
No, actually, I didn't meet him until I went to that presentation with Dylan Busted and Kathy Reston.
Right, okay.
And that was at the Indiana State Museum.
Right.
And I met him there.
Yeah.
And that must have been 72 or 73.
There you go, yeah. Well, our meetings were in the basement, if it was bad weather, basement of this is the old State Museum with the big rotunda, that building. But if it was nice weather, we met in the city park out at Danville. Often we met out there. But we didn't meet all that often. We met
Whenever he thought about it.
whenever Nolan would get the notion, and then he contacted us by postcard. Would send out a postcard and say, hey, how about this date? And whoever could show up, showed up, But Nolan's thing was, he really wanted this. I don't think he ever had a notion that it was ever going to become formalized. He wanted it to be a gathering for people to just sit and play music and enjoy playing music. But, things forced us into having to get more organized.
That was Eagle Creek. I had to get us a 501c3.
That's right.
Because the park department wanted to give us money to bring in, talent from the outside. Well, they couldn't do that until we were a 501c3, so I did that.
Yeah.
That was after Nolan handed it.
Yeah, that was a couple of years. Because he handed over to you in '75, and that was the first festival. I wanted to tell him something that you told me the other day when we were talking. That Nolan once said, "Oh, you can't tune an auto harp and a dulcimer together because you'll break strings." Right?
That happened. That first meeting I went to, and I don't know a lot about music theory, but I did own both of those instruments, and I know that the key of D is the key of D.
Yeah.
So,
When she told me that, I had to laugh because there's so many auto harp players and dulcimer players in the Dulcimer Society, and have been for years.
Yeah.
We've had many of them for years. Marty plays an auto harp. I play an auto harp. But I thought that was so Nolan. It was just so Nolan.
Yeah.
Are you staying? Oh, you found a hot dog. Good. Okay, so let me see what else I want to say here because we're going to move along. Okay, the first Battleground Fiddlers Gathering was in 1973, and I remember that our meeting was there on a Saturday. And it was raining, naturally. I have a distinct memory that the only thing, we had rigged up some canopies, some tarps for canopies, and we were playing, and I remember specifically the only dry thing in that area was Sarah, your little girl. She was sitting in a little chair under a table, and she was the only dry person in our little gathering. We were trying to keep our instruments dry, but I remember that. It's just that, to me, it speaks to kind of the fortitude of us in those early days. We were bound and determined to have meetings, to get together, and to play music. No matter what happened, it's kind of like today. The rain comes in, it's going to go. It's kind of not we just muddle through no matter what. Okay, so the other person who is the person still kicking around from those early days is Jack Moe. Now, I have a picture to show you right here. On the front here, I've got a picture of Marty and Nolan in those very early days, and on the back of that notebook is a picture that I took a couple of weeks ago with Jack Moe.
Okay.
I went to visit Jack, and it was
Seen
just
him
so.
in ages.
No, I always called him Dr. John.
Well, yes.
Yeah, he was going by
The thing
John
is,
when I met him.
That's because in his younger days he was Jack Moe, but at some point, I'll tell you the truth. At some point he got more formal, but he also got more other things that made it impossible for us to stay in contact for several years there. The main reason being he got very, very political, and it went an extremely different direction than anything I could ever have tolerated. So I had to ask him to take me off his email list at some point. This was much later when we were emailing in the I don't know when it was, but it happened much later. But up till then, we were very close for a lot of years. And all right. So I've been to see Jack twice in the last month, and he remembered remembers me, especially because his daughter Susan was with us, and Susan said to me, she's 50 something now. She said, "I can't remember a time in my life when you weren't in our lives." So I know that she was around for quite a long time. I mean, but anyway, I'm glad to have her there, and I'm glad to make the connection. But I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do this workshop, because it really, I mean, Marty and I see each other at least every year anyway, but it was good to connect and talk about the days with the society. So I wanted to say Nolan was president until 75, and that's when he turned it over to you.
Yeah, he became ill and went on dialysis and died a few months later.
He was only 61 when he died, because he died in 85. That was pretty young to die, pretty young. But I looked at the dates. In December of 74 was when Marty took over the newsletter and started saying this. It wasn't monthly to start with. It was, kind of when you had time. Marty was a social worker, as was I in those days. We were co-social workers, but we didn't work together, but we both worked in the field. I would say that it was that December 74 meeting when we finally got going as an organization, because that was the meeting at which we decided as a group that we were going to start meeting regularly at Bethlehem Lutheran Church.
Because I had the key.
Yeah.
And I was employed as the part-time and only employee of the Meridian Kessler Neighborhood Association. So when I took it over from Nolan, I said, well, we got to get organized here. And that 1974 newsletter that went out said, okay guys, we're here, we're back, and we're going to meet every month, and here's the directions. And I also set up, when you came in, we had the program for the first hour, we had workshops for the second hour, and we had sharing circle for the third hour, and it was just fun and along.
And the pastor of the church at the time was a Dulcimer builder. So he had a vested interest in having us meet there. Marty's husband also was a wonderful instrument builder, built beautiful instruments. So yeah, so we had all this affinity going, so it was really kind of great. And it was a great place to meet, as you all know, because you're still meeting there, even
At
today.
Bethlehem? I thought they usually have it.
They're Bethlehem Lutheran.
Yep.
Still and all, they're there.
Down in the basement.
So Nolan and Marty was the second president, and under Marty, which is when we really got organized. I talked to Charlie Hoovler, made contact with old Charlie in Lafayette, and had not talked to Charlie in a long time. But he was not at the very beginning, but then he came in those early days, and he was president after you. We decided the year was about 80 to 81 is when he was president. After Charlie was Cindy Foley. After Cindy Foley was me. And after me was Jerry Gray, and that was about 1986. So yeah. So, and Charlie and I, we said, well, the dates could be approximate, but this was about as close as we could get as we were trying to go back and think about all those early dates. But here's another strong member at the time who was such a support to all of us, and I think some of you know Noble Milton. Yes. Well, Noble was, he was just a stalwart, because he was such...
Can I tell the first name?
Please tell the first name.
Okay, well, Noble Melton was a pastor, and among other things, one of the things I remember is he had to rename whiskey before breakfast. He called it Soup Sets Over the Fence for Noble.
That's right.
He came there,
Did not say
and he
whiskey.
didn't bring his fiddle, and he hadn't fiddled for a long time. But I, at that point, was fiddling around with my fiddle. I could play. And so he said he was a fiddler, and I said, here's a fiddle. And the rest is history. So it was.
Well, and he had grown up in way southern Indiana, and in his growing up years, the fiddle was the devil's instrument. And he was an ordained minister in the Disciples of Christ Church, as am I. And he pastored a little church down in Owen County in Louisville for many, many years. And he never would mix his fiddling with his churching, his ministry. He had to keep them totally separate, because even though he had risen above that notion of it being the devil's instrument, he knew there were plenty of people who hadn't, even in his own family. So, but the thing is, I kind of tracked this day down. By 1974, Noble, you and Dave, and Charlie, and Nolan had formed the White River Bottom Band, and for the longest time, this logo those were the instruments of the White River Bottom Band.
Oh,
Go away
really?
from me. And so, and that logo came from that band for many, many years. That was the logo of the Dulcimore Society. And I've always loved that notion that it doesn't have a fiddle on it. I think at one point a fiddle was added, but that one doesn't. But anyway, all right, let's see. But now to Eagle Creek and its origins. Now, here's something that Marty gave me a copy of, and I want her to talk to you about this, but let me get in here to where it is. The park, I think it's so comical, this information here too. The park decided that they wanted to have a folk festival out here. So they contacted Nolan Sleeth. And Nolan, it's right here, yeah, contacted, I'm just going to pull it out because I'll print it on paper again. Nolan passed it off to Marty because this was in 1975. They wanted, what I think is comical is that this letter is dated July 7th, and there we go. And the event was scheduled for the first weekend in August. Like it never occurred to them that you needed a little more time than that to plan. Yeah. So let Marty tell you about this letter here and what came of that.
Well, one thing that's odd is it's to Mr. and Mrs. David Design.
I know, yeah, he did not get the name right even. But
yeah, so the City of Indianapolis is going to present a traditional folk music festival on August 2nd and 3rd at Eagle Creek Park. We expect to have 60 performers and or craftsmen who are directly related to the area of traditional folk music. Visitor attendance should range between 3,000 or 5,000.
I know it's comical, isn't it?
In a conversation with Nolan Sleeth, he recommended I contact you to see if you will be available to attend either or both of these. We will have 2 concerts on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. Both will be available for craftsmen to exhibit and sell items directly related to folk music. We are also interested in contacting other people who might be interested in attending. Well, that was my open door. I other people.
That's right.
So they have enclosed some flyers.
You two ought to get
if you have
together.
names and addresses, please give them to me. David Helm, Program Supervisor, Eagle Creek Park.
Yeah.
He did that.
So yeah, but here's what is also interesting. Here's what music committee. Look at this. Look at all. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Here, it's like I've lost count. So many pages of description of what you do as a musician. This, Marty took this seriously. It's like 7 or 8 pages here to get this thing going. And so that first year, you pulled Dylan in for that, right? Did you not? Was he the first?
I don't think it was the first year of this. I can't remember what year. But I had been going around to festivals, and I was doing a little stage work and a little just hanging around, and so I had a sense of how, what a folk festival should look like. So yeah, at some point we did have Dylan Buston, and then we had Pat Dunford.
Yeah, I brought this right here to show you. Pat Dunford, this is, that was an album that he released in, I didn't put it on here, but it's called Fine Times at Our House. I borrowed that tune name for gatherings at my house for years. Pat Dunford, and in this right here, this was a collection of 64, I think he did this. He was a teenager basically, but he decided that he wanted Indiana old-time fiddle music to be preserved. And so he and a guy named Art Rosenbaum, he was probably 17 years old, but he was already traveling and collecting this music from southern Indiana and well around Indiana, but mainly southern Indiana. So in 1972 was when we sort of imported Pat to come in and help us with the festival, the second year of the festival. Now this right here was recorded. This was live at Eagle Creek, and any of you know David Dave Samuelson, he lives up north of Delphi up there. Well,
For Battleground.
Battleground. He was one of the instigators of the Battleground Fiddlers Gathering. And he also is an unbelievable ethnomusicologist and has the most amazing collection you could ever know. And his Puritan Records was his label, and he recorded many, many people on that label, produced recordings for them many times. So he did this. So this is what I read on this description here. And I think this was Dave Samuelson who said this, that Pat Dunford organized the first Eagle Creek Folk Festival in 1975. Not true, not true. The festival was held every year at Eagle Creek Park in Indianapolis until the pandemic of 20. So I don't know who put this on there. Here's his performance at one of the first festivals in Eagle Creek Park. Pat was an early member of the Central Indiana Folk Music and Mountain Dulcimore Society that was founded in 1971, and he was not. I don't believe Pat was ever a member of the society. He helped us that second year of the festival. It was wonderful to have his help. But here's what I have to tell you about Pat, as wonderful as he was, and he brought in some fabulous musicians because he was known throughout the southern and eastern part of the country as a collector and as an ethnomusicologist. And he was young, but he was quite well known by that time. So he brought in an amazing group of traditional musicians. And this was in 1976. Now, he was also a social worker, which was our affinity with him as well. He worked in Hawville. He was a community organizer and a social worker. And he, as a young, he was like 13 or something, he first heard old-time banjo and decided that he wanted to learn old-time tunes. So he left home. His mother, whom he lived with, I guess, said, okay, go, learn something. And he went to Virginia and learned to play old-time banjo from Wade Ward. So this was a man who really knew what the heck he was talking about when it came to traditional old-time music and preserving it. And the thing is, Pat saw the Eagle Creek Folk Festival as this fantastic opportunity to really kind of put Indiana old-time music on the map. He liked dulcimers as well and vocals. His thing was old-time banjo and fiddle, but he loved all of the music and he wanted to preserve. And that was his goal, that second year of the festival, his first year of involvement. That was in 1976. And then, unfortunately, in November of that year, he was 28 years old and he died. But he drank himself to death because he had had a motorcycle accident a few years before and lost a leg, and he never recuperated emotionally from that. Marty and I, at the Second Friends Church on the west side, sang at his funeral at Helene's request. It was the first time I've ever sung "O Come Angel Band" in public. But it was for Pat Dunford. Yeah, that was Helene's request. So, but it was kind of a blow. Yeah, Helene was his wife. It was a blow to us to lose Pat because we really thought, we would have his expertise with us for a long time. But by that time, we knew a lot of people. We knew Dylan, and we knew Dylan Buston. You all know who Dylan Buston is. We knew Dylan, and Marty had lots of contacts with lots of people, and so we decided that losing him was not going to be the end of it, So let me see what kind of time I've got here. 2:33. Good. Actually, I have some time. So. I wanted to tell you just a couple of little interesting things. In my way of thinking, Eagle Creek Folk Festival became a real folk festival. It was kind of on the map as a folk festival. And it was a draw. All those years we were down in that horrible amphitheater with giant-sized mosquitoes. And, but... Oh my gosh, the yellow jackets, oh my gosh, they were awful. But, it was... we just muddled through, and it was a great experience for us. But here's the thing, I just want to tell you the time that Noble Melton was on the stage. I was playing in the band with him, and so was Terry. I guess it was the Noble Melton string band, whatever year this was. Marty was MC, and she had come up and given Noble the sign for one more. But Noble had been forced to start late because the group ahead of him had overplayed on the stage. And there was no way in Pardon Me Noble hell that he was going to give up his set. So he turns to us, he says yes to Marty, one more, turns around to us and says, hold on to your hats. And then he started his last fiddle tune. And then he went from that one into another one, about 7 tunes before we ended that set. But we were worn out. My arm was falling off. But mainly, Terry and I were just cracking up, laughing, because by golly, you were not going to tell Noble Nelson to end his set before he got his time in. But Noble was very, very specific. So he knew how many tunes he could get in his allotted time. He was not giving it up no matter what. So a good memory of him. Gene Moore. Did any of you know Gene Moore? Gene lived in Muncie. He had a music store. He drove a school bus for his job, but he had a music store. And the music store was called Get Your Harp Early. Gene's thing was auto harp. He loved the auto harp, and he wanted everybody to have an auto harp. Not only have an auto harp, but have an electric pickup on it. He thought that auto harps needed to be heard, by golly. And so my fondest memory, I was telling you this the other day, for one of our programs we had Jay Round come. Jay was a very well-known, young man, very well-known hammer dulcimer player from Michigan. And he had been playing around festivals all in Indiana for a long time, and we all knew Jay, and he had been to society meetings numerous times. Now he was located in Nashville because he was part of Grandpa Jones's band, but he was back to do a program for us. And he was still hammer dulcimer, but he had quite jazzed things up. And so Gene, who was this kind of crotchety old man, he was very much a traditionalist. And so we were standing kind of at the back of that big room in there, while in those days we didn't face it wide like you guys. We were this way, and so we were way at the back. And so afterwards, Gene had known Jay since Jay was an infant practically, and knew his dad Don. And so of course Jay wanted to come and talk to Gene, and just touch base. And so he came up and he was real anxious to find out what Gene thought of his performance. And Gene Moore says, and I quote, "You know what? That was just fine. You just refined those tunes. In fact, you have refined the melody flat out of them." And it is true, because they were very jazzy tunes, and you could hardly recognize, Ragtime Annie. You could hardly recognize it, because he had jazzed the melody right out of him. But it took Gene Moore to call him on it. Nobody would have the courage to do that. And then, of course, Dylan. The couple of years we had Dylan Buston with us. Marge Steiner. Remember the year that?
She comes up to see me once in a while.
That is good. She calls me once in a while too, and we haven't gotten together, but she and I touched base again when I lived in Massachusetts, because we both in the COVID year, we both started attending on Zoom the same shanty singing group, and so that's how we touched base again. Marge is a great ethnomusicologist from IU as well. She's blind and has traveled all over the UK and Ireland collecting songs. She just barrels along with her stick and just assumes that somebody's going to help her, and they always seem to, So it was great. But Marge, I remember, I'm just thinking of these memories, And I remember the time down at the amphitheater, she was down there on the stage, and she was singing, and a little bird flew down and started singing with her. Do you remember that? It was uncanny, and we were all, is that a bird? And it just kind of came down and sat on a chair, perched on a chair or something there, and just whistled right along with Marge, singing whatever long ballad she was singing, just all these unaccompanied ballads.
She would tell me when she was staying in these guest houses in Ireland, these like local characters lived there. Well, she was blind and she had a braille watch. She'd come in and down for breakfast, and they'd say, "Marge, tell time."
She really kind of made her way all over the UK and all over Ireland. Yeah.
She's a featured performer in there, and they play for her. She is collected all over.
Oh, yeah?
Where's that?
New Brunswick.
Yeah.
That's
Up there
amazing.
by Greyhound.
And she lives in Bloomington. She's a great resource. We should make more use of her. She's a great resource. Okay, so a couple of other people. Kenny Lohr. Remember Kenny Lohr? He's from Colorado. and discovered Eagle Creek when he was here visiting, and then came every year for several years, played guitar and sang, and he kind of took us a little bit into a more modern type music because he was good buddies with John Denver, so he liked to do contemporary folk music as well, you know. Anybody remember Pat Webb and Charlotte Daniels? Remember Pat and Charlotte? Well, Pat was a guitar player extraordinaire, really, but I remember him most as a singer and a poet, and his version of Sitting on Top of the World Cannot Be Beat. You know, all these people are gone from us now, and Charlotte sang the blues. Basically, my version of John Henry is based on Charlotte's version. I liked her. I've had a couple of extra verses in mind, but I liked her version really well. Then there was old Mr. A.B. Duncan. Did you guys know Mr. A.B.? Oh, see that look? That was A.B. Duncan. Yeah. Played bluegrass banjo, barely, but played with everybody that he could horn in on. But it was, you know, it was that kind of an atmosphere. He didn't really play well, but old A.B. was there.
There was a time when he and Bill Arthur were on stage. And afterwards, I'm in their faces. You are not driving home.
Yeah.
And years later, A.B. said, after that, I never drank again.
She really lit into him. She did. So I wanted to tell you that I want to play a little something for you. Actually, I have a speaker to play it through, but I'm not sure. I think it's.
I'll get it.
It might be here in this bag, honey. Is it still in the car? Okay. Just because I want you to hear it. This is Jack Moe. His daughter found some recordings of Jack. This is from the Folk Festival in 1978. And there are two reasons that I want you to hear this. It's because the other sort of infamous person connected with us in those early years was Bill Arthur. And Bill, well, I'm going to keep this going, so I'll try to do this, keep it doing at the same time. You don't think, okay, well, I'll turn it off to do this then. I will, let's see, go back to where that was. Yeah, go back to where it was, and you'll just have to stop that. But, stop it, but I'll turn it on again when we sing in a minute, but then we just need to put this on.
I just paused it.
Okay, no, pause, that's good, yeah. So this is a song. I want you to hear Bill's voice. He wasn't singing. Bill had possibly the most amazing voice for our music. No, it was 20. It should be 28 or 29. It should be 29. But you know, again, it happens with so many of the most fabulous artists. He number 29 made himself, you know, come to a terrible end eventually. But in those days, he could get sober and get up on the stage, and he was emceeing for us. So you hear his voice introducing Jack Moe. So where is it, honey?
You ready?
Where is it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. It's oh wait, honey, the one you want to play is 27.
Yeah, that's what we're going.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it'll play through here. Yeah. It's all good. All right. So I just want you to hear. Here's some applause first.
These people are trying to put together a whole kind of spectrum of different kinds of music, and I hope you all are enjoying it.
This was in 78. We're pretty sure.
He qualifies hardcore now since you've not deserted this to go mundane concerns like food and all that.
That's all of you.
So you all qualify as honorary hardcore folk music appreciator. This next fellow, his name is John Moe. He's the founder of the Irish Performing Arts Society of Indianapolis. And his daughter Ann's going to be with him. They're going to do a thing together and give you just a little example of some of the Irish culture here. So make them welcome John and Ann Moe.
Now, what
Thank
I'm
you
gonna-
very much. Brief commercial message. possibly directed as much to backstage as it is
I'm
front
going to
stage.
skip ahead.
The Irish performing.
Jack sings.
When friendships decay,
That Irish song, I don't remember.
and from love shall flow.
Yeah, Last Rose of Summer. But
Thank you very much.
the one I want you to hear is this one.
I'm
and
sure
you'll
that
listen
you
to
can
all
see
of
that
it.
without an instrument, a
Maybe
performer
we'll
is
listen.
really handicapped. And I know that you want to help me on this next song. It has a very complicated chorus consisting of 2 words. And if you're really good, I'll give you another one later on with more words. And the 2 words in this chorus are Eileen Aroon. Now let's say all together, Eileen Aroon. Oh, that's wonderful. Now if I can remember how it goes. I know a valley fair, Eileen Aroon. Very good. I know a cottage there, Eileen Aroon. Far in that valley shade, I know a tender maid, flower of the hazel glade, Eileen Aroon. Oh, that's lovely. Who in the song so sweet, Eileen Aroon. Who in the dance so fleet, Eileen Aroon. Fair are her charms to me, fairer her laughter free, fairest her constancy, Eileen Aroon. Oh, that's very nice. Were she no longer true, Eileen Aroon, what would her lover do, Eileen Aroon? Fly with a broken chain, far o'er the sounding main, never to love again, Eileen Aroon. Youth will in time decay, Eileen Aroon. Beauty will fade away, Eileen Aroon. Castles are sacked in war, chieftains are scattered far. Truth is a fixed star, Eileen Aroon. Truth is a fixed star, Eileen Aroon. Very nice. Maybe we should trade places. Yeah. And I have to say that I learned that song from Mac Bellner and stole it from her. I was going to do it tonight. She came over and she said, "All right, you owe me a song." So now I have to learn one that she can steal from me.
Okay, yes. So what I want to tell you is that eventually, in fact, he did find a song that he could let me steal from him, and that is the one that I want us to sing. Because I remember when he came to the Dulcimore Society with this song, and this may not be my place to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. in those earliest days of the society, and for some years, up until maybe I don't know, maybe not until maybe the 90s. I don't know when it really started, because I was not participating for a long time. You know, you have the program hour, and then you had the second hour, which was business or jamming or just sitting around and talking or whatever. And then there was the sharing circle. Now, the couple of meetings that I've attended in the last year or so, almost everybody leaves before the sharing circle. Hardly anybody stays for the sharing circle. And that is where we learned songs from each other. It was really a sharing circle, and we really sat there, and it was a huge circle. And yes, it sometimes took more than an hour, but it was because we wanted to hear. You were there in those days. We wanted to hear what other people had to offer. Nowadays, it seems to me like the program time is sort of like the sharing circle. If you get there in time to sign up to be on the program, that's when you share what you have, you know, which is fine, except that it's lost something without the sharing circle. And that's only my opinion, but I just feel like this is the opportunity that I have to say it. So
today, somebody.
Right. Yeah. It was a
group or something.
Yeah. We actually ran it as a program. We would have, you know, it wasn't just like an open stage, like sign up for an open stage. It was really a program. So then it was important for us to be in the big circle and share with one another and go around that circle and somebody would play something, somebody would sing something, and sometimes people would say, well, my name is Mac and I'm going to pass. Because if you wanted to pass, you could, you know. But I remember the sharing circle, the time that Jack came with the song that he wanted to give me, Let Me Steal. I'm sure he kept singing it plenty of times as well. And this song is one that I sing this every year at the State Fair. I sing it every year at the Feast of the Hunter's Moon in the gospel sing, because it's good to be reminded of this. And this was a song, when he brought it, he said, I think it's a Quaker song, but I don't know for sure. I think it's a Quaker hymn. Turns out it's not Quaker, because many years later, in 2004, I still have the email where he sent me, and the subject was, looky what I found. And what it was he had been perusing a Mennonite hymn book that had been published in 1904, and he found it in the Mennonite hymn book, and it's called Only Remember. So I want us to sing it. Can we sing it together? The words are so easy, like Eileen Aroon, they are only remembered. That's basically what you have to say. So it goes, it's only remembered first time through for what I have done, for what he or she has done, they, and for what we have done. Okay, so 3 verses, very simple. Chorus tune is the same as the verse tune. Up and away, like the dew of the morning, soaring from earth to its home in the sun. Thus will I cease from the earth and its toiling, only remembered for what I have done, only remembered, only remembered, only remembered for what I have done, only remembered, only remembered, only remembered for what I have done. Shall we be missed while others succeed us, reaping the fields we in springtime have sown? Yea, though the soul shall rest from its labors, only remembered for what he has done, only remembered, only remembered, only what on earth we have sown, these shall live onward, lest we are forgotten. Only remember for what we have done. Only remember. Only remember. Only remember for what we have done. Only remember. Only remember. Only remember for what we have done. And I want to tell you that in that big room, with that huge circle of people singing that and all the harmonies, it was like a pipe organ. It was just unbelievable. So I'd like to hear that again in that big room sometime. So, I mean, that's all formally that I wanted to tell you. If you guys have questions, you know,
I just want to play a little on this. This the
on
Nolan's
Nolan's
original Dulcimer he got in Mountain View, Arkansas. And let me tell you that these are probably the original strings, so it's better sound. But this thing is like, that's real purfling. If you know what purfling is, there's a groove that was put in here, and then a thin stripe of black, of gold and of black. So it's like, yeah. And it plays like David Pizzini's Dulcimers have a more lusty sense, and I like that. Anyway, but this plays like symphony. I could go in Tennessee, sail away, baby, sail away, and the one with her, sail away, baby, sail away, sail away, sail away, sail away, baby, sail away, sail away,
I love it.
Nice.
Those were the days when Nolan played that dulcimer. I just want to say, correct myself, the Mennonite hymn book that it was in was from 1902, not 2002, not 1902, not 1904. I just saw I corrected myself. So if you guys have any, things you want to ask, I mean, Marty is a treasure trove of information. And here I've got the music. Well, I don't either, but I can tell you how it goes. It's in. It goes. Let's hear the D. Let's hear the D. It goes. You guys don't have Chinese records? Oh, I just have the chords on here, so I don't read music either, but I just kind of know how the tune goes. That's Red Pine. Good enough, though. that's it for us. But you know, we're happy to sit and chat if you want to.
I wonder.